So, as we may, I think we've mentioned, I've cut it a few times, but I think we have talked about on this podcast a few times that I'm keeping a running tally of where I rank the episodes as we watch them. This is a new low for the series. This is the very bottom. It has eclipsed House of the Rising Sun, and whatever the case may be, it is at the very, very bottom.
My God, it's not good, but I haven't ranked it yet, and I'm debating. I don't know if I would put it at the very bottom, but it's definitely in the bottom 3 for sure.
Yeah, well, because as I texted you before, we have had episodes where we've debated if one thing happens, but I contest that this episode nothing happens. Absolutely
You know what?
nothing.
That's a great point. I think I'm aligned there.
You could cut this episode out, and I don't think you miss anything from Exodus. Maybe Jack finding out about the hatch, but you could infer that from the end of the last episode. It changes nothing.
Oh man, I was gonna say, like, do we learn anything about Kate? And I'm like, no, because none of it makes any sense with anything that happens later.
It's infuriating the whole time I was watching this, because it doesn't make any sense why Kate is this wanted, and she only causes trouble in this episode. And to what end? Nothing.
Yep.
I hate this episode. I really do. I despise this episode.
Yeah, it is interesting you mentioned this, because I know the day that I was watching, I was feeling productive. I was getting shit done. And then I was like, it's Monday. We're going to record on Wednesday. I should check it out. And I watched the episode, no commercials, and was still like, fuck. And I even thought that I might get something out of it, because I do distinctly recall this was an episode. The last time I saw it, I was high. and I could talk about those specific feelings I had. And in retrospect, I'm like, man, I don't even know why I would have felt these things. Like, it's such a disappointment.
I mean, we've talked about it before, especially with whatever the case may be, but oh my God. So you remember we were talking about how Kate's character would have been better if she was more manipulative, if she was more proactive. There is one teeny tiny glimpse of that in this episode when she tells Sawyer, if I want your spot, I'm going to get your spot. I was like, okay, all right. That's a choice. That's a thing. And it just comes out of nowhere, and it does nothing. Like, it, at the very end, when Sawyer's like, you said you were going to take my spot, and I believed you. And she's just like, yeah, sorry. I'm poking at the fire. I'm alone.
Yeah, I think part of what makes that so infuriating is just go in a direction with Kate. Like,
any direction.
Have her be a jerk if you want. Have her be emotionally manipulative. It doesn't make sense. And I don't even, I'm realizing, like, I think I gotta be happy for Evangeline Lilly that she has a job on Marvel. And as far as I can tell, she does that well. I haven't seen the Ant-Mans, but
she was in that, and she was in the Hobbit movies. She got 2 huge franchises after not being in like anything for a while, if I remember.
Well, good for her, because if Lost was her sizzle reel, actually, no, I take it back. I guess if it was her sizzle reel, you would have a lot of perceived levels.
Mm-hmm.
But were you someone that watched the show, you'd be like, I don't get it. What? who is Kate? Why is she simultaneously a threat and also so milquetoast?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is the worst character. She's just like I'd even go so far as to say, knowing where Claire's character goes, Kate is a worse character. Like, I so wish they made her competent. I think that's got to be one of the things is like everything she does feels so slapdash.
Mm-hmm.
Because even just this early scene of her being like, "Hey, Michael, you're gonna bring Sawyer, and you're gonna go, and what about Walt, huh?" And it's
It
like,
was so desperate.
yes, desperate. Desperate is the word.
Yeah.
Desperate. She is so desperate, and it's like just be competent. Be that detective who can suss out things and get a lay of the land,
Mm-hmm.
and just be like, instead of so obviously desperate, it's like, so you guys are taking off on this boat. It's going to be pretty risky. You trust everyone you're on the boat with? Yeah. Why? I know if it were me, probably wouldn't want to take the guy who is hiding a gun from you. Wait, what? What does he have? Or, like something like
Yeah.
that, something to plant the seed of doubt.
Or even just like drop some knowledge about like if she did actually like do 2 months of J. Crew sailing or whatever that thing was. Just be like, oh yeah, so the trade winds are picking up. You're probably gonna wanna bellow out the sail when you do this, and when you get out to the the current, something like that, like where she just shows that she can be useful out there.
Yeah.
And I hate this because we are beating up on the one very prominent female character on the show, and I hate that. I don't want to say this is the worst character, but oh my god, it's so frustrating to just again, like we've had 3 Kate episodes in this season. We had Tabula Rasa, whatever the case may be, and this one, and every single one just feels.
Well, it's like I remember this one as being one of the few Kate episodes where something happens.
Mm-hmm.
You get a glimpse of real Kate, and it's like, no, you don't. You get these like very shallow seeds, and they wind up doing nothing with any of them.
Here's what happens in this flashback. Like in my mind, the two important things that happen in this flashback. We find out that Kate is directly responsible for the death of a man who just had a baby, and that her mother is terrified of her. Like those are the only two important things that we learn. And neither of those things really tells us anything about what she did or makes us feel close to her as a person. Instead, we just go like, wow, she really ruined this guy's life and had really seemed to have no business going back to her mother if she was that terrified of her.
Yeah, it's so abundantly clear that they don't know what Kate did.
Do not know, have no idea.
You can't have two interactions with two completely different characters. One who's like, oh, Katie, how are you doing? Gosh, how's life been? I mean, I know it's been hard because you've been on the run, but gee golly, I want to take care of you. And then have a woman terminally ill, last days of her life, see her daughter who seems to be just there to be like, hey, Ma, I'm real sorry. And instead of being like, oh, great, I can close the book on this, it's like, help, don't leave me alone with it. It's like, how do you have those two things? What did she do? What did she do? And of course, when they finally reveal what she did, it's like, that's it? Surely she did something else. And it's like, they needed to tell that now. Like this, that's why this just feels so like they're padding time.
This episode answers a question that, frankly, I didn't care about, which is, what's the deal with the airplane from the case? And it's like, did you think that this whole episode gives me any indication of why she still wants this airplane so badly? Like, the guy's dead. It doesn't change anything whether or not she has that plane. It's a stupid retcon backtracking answer to be like, it's this important thing to her. It's like, no, here's the thing. If this guy like tragically gave his life to defend her and he was holding it, or, it symbolizes their lost youth, I get that part. But she got him killed. There's no bones about it. He tells her he's not getting out of the car. She drives directly into a man shooting bullets at them. I don't know what else he'd be shooting. But it's like, I don't buy that she would risk this entire very elaborate bank heist to get this, or to go through all of the things that she went through with Sawyer just to get this little toy plane. I don't believe it. I don't
No.
believe that Kate has spent her entire life on the run, that she would make so many stupid decisions to get this little toy that doesn't mean anything anymore because he's dead.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Like it's because as we've mentioned, even on that whatever the case may be one, like if you're getting this guy to rob a bank and be okay with killing people, she slept with the guy, and I just from what we know of Kate, I'm not saying that like people have to be chaste, but weird length to go for a toy plane.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it's like, this answered one question that I didn't really need an answer to, which is, does Kate have a thing for doctors? And it's like, because I feel like that's the only reason that's a part of it. And then they're like, well, then how can we make that relevant? Well, the mom has terminal cancer that we'll retcon. Oh, boy. Oh, Kate.
I find it interesting that Javier Grill-Marxuach has a story by credit for this episode, but he's not the one who wrote it.
Oh.
And because Grill-Marxuach, from what I have read from him, he really was sort of the caretaker of the Lost lore. Like, if anybody knew about who the characters were and why their storylines go in the directions that they do, it would be him. And I wonder how this episode might have hit differently if he was the one writing it. But even then, like, it's such a nothing burger of an episode. I stand solidly by, you could remove this episode and it doesn't change anything, other than the fact, I guess, that now all of the Losties know that she's a criminal. But you could have handled that anywhere.
Yeah, as I recall, it doesn't really come up. Like, if memory serves, don't think anyone really gives a shit. It's a total pain in the butt. And I think you're right. I think if you removed it, you don't lose anything, because they still sail the boat, still have Jack trying to figure it. Yeah, it doesn't change anything. All it does is muddy the waters further as to who the hell Kate is. And welcome to the podcast, brother.
Welcome to the podcast, brother.
My name is Derek Hobson. I am the younger brother.
My name is Pierce Nahigyan. I am the elder brother. And today on Losing Lost, we are discussing Born to Run, the 22nd episode of Season 1 of ABC's Lost. It was written by Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz. The story is by Javier Grill-Marxuach, and it was directed by Tucker Gates. Unless I'm misremembering, I think this is the only episode where it makes a distinction between the teleplay being by writers and the story being by another writer. Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz. This is the only season 1 episode that they've written, but they will go on to write other episodes. And then Tucker Gates previously directed Confidence Man and In Translation, and would go on to direct a couple more episodes in the future, but not too many more episodes.
All right, I'm gonna keep. Who were the writers again? Who they apparently go on to write other things.
Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled on these guys. These are the guys who probably wrote Fire and Water. Is what I'm thinking.
You are correct, sir.
No.
Yep, you are correct. Their season 2.
Oh no.
Their season 2 credits include Everybody Hates Hugo, Fire Plus Water, Dave, and 3 Minutes. And they write episodes in every single season, and all of them together, with the exception of one season 6 episode that they wrote with Elizabeth Sarnoff.
Did they write the Lock on a Weed Farm episode?
Do you remember what that one's called?
I don't know. Something about I'm a hunter or not a hunter. Is hunting in the title?
Let's see here.
It would be season 3 for sure.
Not Greatest Hits. They wrote Greatest Hits.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's plenty for now.
You know what they did, right?
What?
They wrote the Nikki and Paulo episode.
Oh, okay. So they are hits and misses. They are They're gonna have my own tier list because I do love greatest hits. I remember that one being very good, and I liked Nikki and Paolo's episode, which like you want to talk about something meaningless that was added to the lost lore that was like, why is this here? And then they made it meaningful, and I'm like, I love this.
Yeah.
So all right. So they've got two hits and two misses in my book. I'll have to.
When they also wrote "He's Our You" from season 5, which I remember liking. It has that really trippy scene where Saeed gets dosed with acid and reveals that he's from the future.
Oh yeah, that was. I love that.
Yeah.
They may deserve their own tier list though. I'm glad that I don't have to hate them. But yeah, Fire plus Fire Born to One, not a great start, but maybe it's also they get better.
Yeah. Finding their legs.
Yeah. Man, oh man.
Yeah, you called that one.
That's so funny. But before we proceed, message out there to everyone listening. Urgent, important. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. If you like puppies, hit that subscribe button.
Right, but nothing's gonna happen to any puppies if you don't.
Nothing's gonna happen to any puppies. I just mean if you like them, that would be a vote, a way to vote your voice with your vote.
Maybe we'll upload pictures of our puppies if we get enough likes. I don't know.
Yeah. Pierce, what did you think of?
Hated it. Fucking hated it. I hated it not every single minute. There is one scene in this episode that I think is very cute, and I liked it. I also think that the final bit of dialogue between Sun and Kate is poignant, but otherwise, no. I have nothing else to say other than I hate it. This was the shortest collection of notes that I wrote. I just went like, yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, how do you feel about Born to Run?
Same camp. I'm playing with that idea that this is maybe the worst episode of the season, but it may just be that I've put so much time into believing House of the Rising Sun is the bottom of the list that I feel weird about knocking it up a notch. But it is interesting you mentioned the notes because yeah, likewise, I basically just started writing like, we've mentioned this before, but like notes. I tend to have things where I'm like, all right, here's a question, or which can prompt a discussion. Here's a neat parallel or callback or foreshadowing, and then I will have things that I regret writing down because they are anecdotal, It's just like, hey, that line was funny. Watch the episode and you'll know why that's funny. But I write them down anyway because, whatever. This episode is just full of that, which is like, oh, she's from Iowa. And that's all I was like, I got nothing. I don't. All it did in that case was make me go like, why is someone from Iowa America's Most Wanted?
Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Yeah, okay, so let's talk about the hair. So she has blonde hair and then proceeds Yes. And then proceeds to dye it presumably the color that she left this town with. Like if any place on earth would recognize her with brown hair, it would be her hometown, right?
Yep.
So this is backwards. Like it should be she arrives with brown hair and dyes her hair blonde. I like right away the episode starts pissing me off with this. Like why is this what you did? Why did you do this?
This is absolutely one of those classic cases of like, are we misdirecting you? And it's like, no, you're not. Like, who else looks like this from behind and then is doing the license plate, sneaking it? It's like, I get this is Kate. You don't have to have her have blonde hair for me to be like, oh, but is it Kate?
Yeah, we know it's not Claire. We know it's not Shannon. We know it's not Sun. And there's no one else it could be.
If anything, would have been kind of a neat little twist if it's like, they cut to the lady dyeing her hair. And then she's like, all right, now if I ever have a daughter, I'm going to name her Katie.
That would have been something.
Or the phone rings and someone we've never seen before answers it. And it's like, don't put Katie on the phone, bitch. I told you I'm going out for smokes.
Okay. So she sneaks into the motel room, dye her hair, and she gets a letter from someone.
They never explain that.
Nope. That presumably tells her mother is dying. She goes into the name Joan Hart, which I don't know. Is this a reference to Melissa Joan Hart from Clarissa Explains It All? It's the only Joan Hart I know.
Oh, yeah. No, that would make more sense. I vaguely remember a commentary track where they had her adopt names of country singers or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, all it made me think of was Joan of Arc. But I realized like I have no reason to assume that Joan Hart and Joan of Arc have. It's just like, who's a famous lady?
Horowitz and Kitsis, the Wonderkins. All right. On the beach, Charlie tells Kate that Drive Shaft's album sales probably spiked when it was announced he died. And he goes into a whole thing about they'll be rescued. And Kate hears this and she gets worried. As if this is the first time she's considering this, that when they get picked up, she will go right back to prison. Arzt shows up. We have Arzt, our favorite high school science teacher. He claims the raft won't be able to launch for 3 to 4 months because of monsoon season, or because of the approaching monsoon season, and that they need to leave as soon as possible. He claims to be a doctor. Sawyer says he's a high school science teacher. And I believe in a later, those short little 2-minute lost mobisodes or whatever.
Yeah.
I believe somebody points out to him is like, well, you said it was going to rain every afternoon once we were in monsoon season. And he says, well, I lied about that. I just wanted them to launch the raft.
Does he really?
Yep. I think the showrunners got fan mail or fans were just sort of like, well, Arzt was talking about this thing and this never happened. There's no monsoon. And they were like, yeah, I guess we should cover our ass. And which is a lot of those short little mobisodes are the writers covering their ass. Ethan revealing that he has doctor skills, or Jack and his dad talking the morning of the wedding. And
interesting.
Yeah. So
I know you shared those with me. I still got to watch them because I'm simultaneously I don't want to spoil it for myself. And then I'm also like, what are you talking about, Derek?
No, I think, I still think we should leave it till the end of season 3. You don't need to look at those whatsoever. And we'll do a whole separate episode where we go into those, because I forget.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I think they are canon, but they're also, it's called missing pieces for a reason, that you don't really need them to put the whole puzzle together. But anyway,
at the same time I was looking at watching a long play of the Lost video game. I think I told you, but I didn't finish it. I got an hour in and I was like, I'm good. Because I was always curious, what is the gameplay of this?
Yeah. When did it come out? When in the show, is Smokey in it, or is it just a random monster?
If he is, I didn't get that far. I think the game came out after season 2.
That makes sense.
And I want to tell you, they got Matthew Fox to voice Jack. I can definitely tell you they did not get Josh Holloway to voice Sawyer, because it's they passed a script to a guy and he's like, so what's this character? You're a Southern hick. Because if you ever want to know what it sounds like if Sawyer literally just fell out of a Simpsons episode.
If he was Cletus from The Simpsons.
Yeah. It's just hey there, kid, why don't you pass me some of that water bottles? And it's you've never seen this show. Anyway, maybe I'll try and finish that when we do the mobisodes, and if there's anything worth gleaning from it. It is such a classic, what I have to assume is late 2006.
That sounds right.
Video game, because it's kind of when you're playing Spider-Man, the first one, and it's voiced by Tobey Maguire, and you're like, it's Tobey Maguire, but then the novelty wears off. It's kind of like that, but feels like someone was playing with how, hey, you can have just lines of dialogue in video games now that won't eat up the whole data. Let's just have lines of dialogue, because the guy in the long play is like talking to Kate, who is also definitely not played by Evangeline Lilly. And if you were ever like, hey, how, before LA Noire figured out that, hey, we could make a whole game about whether or not people are being deceptive, and they were just like, hey, since someone playing this game knows that Kate's a convict, let's make it clear. And it's, the guy is just like, your protagonist, your self-insert, your Sora from Kingdom Hearts. He is just like, you look lost. Are you okay? Yeah, I was just, you're rubbing your wrists a lot. Are you okay? Yeah, they just hurt. That's all. I just hurt them. Yeah, we all got hurt on that plane. Yeah. So it's a good thing we're all alive. Well, I guess. Huh? Like, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm way off. We can keep going. Wait, going back to where we're at. I do love that Charlie calls out that drive shaft sales have likely skyrocketed. I think that's kind of fun. Like, yeah, this is what he would be thinking about. I also like that Charlie, in this case, announces the obvious, because I do recall the first time I watched this show, hearing that they're going to build a raft, and in my head, the image I had of a raft was like, let's get a bunch of logs and tie them together. And Charlie very much is like, they build a boat. That's not a raft. And so I do thoroughly appreciate that. And then I also love Arst's delivery of the line yesterday. Like, to me, that's actually on par with Hurley when he's like, Jack, he wasn't on the plane. Because I really love that thing. When are we supposed to leave? Or when are we supposed to leave? Yesterday. Yeah. And just like toddles off. And I'm like, that's so good. So good.
An interesting fun fact about the raft, which this really falls into the Exodus episode, but I will probably forget it by then. So I'm just going to say it now. I was listening to an interview with Damon Lindelof, and Jack Bender was directing that episode, obviously. And he was like, all right, so we're going to shoot the raft going into the water. And Lindelof was like, what? No, that's a prop. You can't do that. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And he was like, you're going to kill these actors. And he's like, yeah, I think it's going to work. I think it'll be all right. He said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them go off in the raft, and I'm going to send the dog out there to chase after them. And Lindelof was like having a nervous breakdown because he was sure that they were about to kill 4 of their actors.
Oh my god! You know what's great about this? Or sorry, continue.
But anyway, they put it off into the water and it floated, and it was a surprise to everybody.
What I love about that, and I guess this comes from being on location, is it feels like that Sam Raimi spirit. Because my second kind of Spider-Man reference, but I always adored how Sam Raimi just beats the shit out of his actors. And what's funny is that, like, I don't mean that violence is funny, but it seems like you don't have to do that when you're at the level of, like, say, Spider-Man. And yet,
but why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Like, I remember so vividly watching, like, the Evil Dead commentary. Maybe this was Army of Darkness, where, like, Bruce Campbell gets hit with a potato. And he's like, yes, Sam Raimi was throwing potatoes at me. That, I guarantee you, that potato likely came directly from him. Yeah. And like, then they show, like, the gag reel from Spider-Man 2. And at one point, Sam Raimi is walking in the background and not only hits him, Tobey Maguire, in the face, but then the sash, like, gets caught on his face and yanks his face. And it's like, God, this is so brutal.
Yeah, like, Sam Raimi's, he's a little stinker.
He should, direct Jackass 5. But yeah, I think that's, like, when you're filming on location, and it does seem like maybe some of the typical safety and hospitality rules don't apply. It seemed like if he was allowed to direct an episode, you can bet it's like, yeah, we'll throw him in the water. Yeah. And when they drown, we'll have a tank on shore. Why would you need that? Let's just film them in the ocean. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was Lindelof has said that he really trusted Jack Bender and gave him a lot of leeway. And I forget which actor it was, but one of the actors was I was listening to another interview with them. They're talking about how like a scene just wasn't working the way that it was scripted. And Bender had the freedom to, and you don't always get this in a TV show, where he was like, well, let's not do it that way then. Let's do it a different way. Let's change the blocking. Let's move it over here. Does that feel more comfortable? And they were like, yeah, this feels way better. He's like, good. And it just goes to show. And again, we have talked about this several times that like, when you're watching a Jack Bender episode, it's just the shots look better. The actors' performances are better. It's just, nothing against Tucker Gates, who directed this episode. I thought this was a very competently directed episode, but another thing about Sam Raimi, because I don't want to talk about this episode, is just it's great that him and Bruce Campbell went to high school together. And so, they've just known each other forever. And there's so many stories of just Bruce talking about, when he's like strapped to that big cross section and they're like spinning him around in the forest in Evil Dead 2 and they just keep throwing stuff at him, or when they dump like all of those gallons of fake blood on him and he's like, all right, just Bruce, just try not to drown. He's like, could I drown? He's like, shut up. It's just real action.
Oh man.
All right. Back to Lost.
Back to Lost.
All right. Kate tells Michael she's going on the raft and she claims she knows her way around a sailboat and wants to take Sawyer's place. And then she also tries to take Walt's spot, which obviously Michael does not accept. He gets pissed off and says, get away from me.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that, but that's basically what he says. I
will say one piece of credit I can give this episode, and I will kind of take it back later. When Kate is trying to kick everyone off the raft using her words, I did write down, why hasn't she mentioned Jin? And of course, as we learn through over the course of the episode, it's like, because Jin's her target when this fails. And like, in retrospect, it is obvious that's like not going to mention Jin to kind of bury the lead, I guess. But I think that was a clever touch.
See, I disagree. I think that she's not even thinking about getting rid of Jin at this point. I think this was her very clumsy attempt, her first attempt to get on the raft. And then when that doesn't work, she's like, all right, well, then I'll get rid of Jin. But I will, to be nice, I'll take what you said and we'll say that, yeah, this is her diverting or making a diversion.
Can't have a boat without Jin. Get it? Because they're drunk. And that's... All right, we move on.
Kate tries to see her mom, Diane Jansen, but it is being guarded by a cop because Kate is so dangerous.
And for all they know, she's going to be there.
Yeah, it's like, what do they think she's going to do? Like blow up the hospital? I don't. All right.
Well, like, and clearly she was out of town. So, yeah.
It doesn't make sense. She hides in the back seat of her childhood crush's car. This is Tom. Back on the island, Sun asks Jin if he's going. Sorry. I'm trying. I'm not trying. That's not true. All right. Sun asks Jin if he's going. He says yes. That's the scene. In the jungle, Saeed takes... that's the scene.
Is Jin making a monkey fist in this?
I don't know what he's doing there. That doesn't seem... You would know better than me. You know about knots and stuff.
I honestly, I don't know what a monkey's fist is for, other than a fun little thing to do with children.
It looks like he's making a koosh ball. I don't know. In the jungle, Saeed takes Jack to the hatch. Locke says, I guess it's time we talked about this. Like he had any fucking choice. Locke's attitude this whole episode is ridiculous. Like, it's just like, you've been caught. Don't act like this was your idea.
I'm sure half of it's scripting, but part of it is like, you would hope that the actors have enough autonomy that it's like, this doesn't sound like my character. Because Locke's been caught. He's been had. Like this, and then he gets real indignant with the various things that Jack kept to himself when it's like, yeah, I'm still on Jack's side with most, I think all these things.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, I do have another thing on this scene, which is I didn't realize this happened as early as season 1, but this is something, it is a character trait of Jack's that most notably happens in season 3 with the door that they say, don't open the door. And he's like, I'm going to open the door. I do like that Saeed is being coy and Jack just flat out is like, Saeed, tell me why you brought me out here. I'm going to turn around.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's so busy about it. It's like, first of all, Jack, no, you're not, because you will get lost.
But I really, it's a character trait that you need in your lead, especially on this show as it gets worse, as the coyness gets worse. Because this episode, when we get to it, I'm going to call it out for what it is. But as we've talked about in the past, I think it was the Jack episode that we just saw, the Do No Harm, where they handled vague dialogue well. You don't have to do this. What are they talking about? I don't know. They do it in this episode, and this is one of those moments where it's like, no, you did this wrong. You're just playing with me, and I don't appreciate it. But when we get to it,
Well, it's funny too that we're almost done with season 1, and we've now had like some huge highs, like some really, really great episodes. But episodes like this one, and I'll argue the last one, although, you softened me a little bit on that one, is you really feel the writers trying to hit their quota for the season. Like, we could have launched the raft like 3 episodes ago easily, but they have a certain order of episodes that they have to fulfill. So they're just stretching it out. And so, yeah, you do that vague shit, and it's painful, because like when the show's good, it's so good. And it just, when they draw things out or when they're overly vague about stuff, it makes it that much clearer, because this show can be direct and it can be impactful when it needs to be. And it's tough to watch an episode like this and just be like, come on, let's get to the fireworks factory. Come on.
I mean, to that point too, like I think this goes back a little bit to Lost coming out in that weird time frame of not really knowing if you could do a TV show like this, that every episode matters. Because I know, like, I think it was in that article you sent me where apparently JJ's thing, at least to producers, was, no, each episode is self-contained. It'll be totally fine. It's like, they're definitely not.
Yeah.
But because I feel like you could have easily had them, launch the raft 3 days ago, and you could have had a nice C storyline of them out afloat before hitting the finale, where everything goes to shit. Them waiting till the finale to launch the raft feels like one of those, we need a big thing for our season finale. Well, they're going to open the hatch. Okay, that's one thing. Can we have any other big things? Can someone die? Or, we already killed Boone. We blew that. They're like, we'll have the raft go. And it's like, oh, okay. Whereas, like, yeah, it does feel like they know that finales, similar to like a sports game, talking like I know sports. But, it's like the difference between an early game versus a later game. Certainly not Super Bowl. Well, I guess maybe they think of it as like a Super Bowl. Certainly the Lost series finale. You know what? I'm already off track.
Well, so to jump on that, it brings me back to a more recent interview that Damon Lindelof gave, which is his original hope for the series was that they would do 3 seasons of, I think it was 11 episodes each. And what a difference that would have made. I can't even imagine what the show, would have looked like with that. But it goes to show that, even Lindelof acknowledges, he's like, it wasn't up to me that we made the show as long as it was, or that it went for as many seasons as it did. We had a mandate. We didn't have control over that. And for that, I don't put the blame for drawing this stuff out. I know the writers are doing all that they can, but it's still frustrating,
Yeah. Last thing I'll mention about this, I also appreciate that they loosened Jack's neck key.
Yeah.
Because ever since you mentioned it, I always, like, in each of the episodes now, I just see it like sticking out. It's just a perfectly erect neck. And It's just like, this is just distracting. They need to do so. And it's like, it's loose. So now it's like the necklace.
Yeah.
And it's like,
On the beach, Sawyer learns from Michael that Kate wants his spot. He confronts her while she's burning Joanna's passport, and he grabs Kate. It's very rough, and he tells her he knows she was the marshal's prisoner. And I'm editing the Outlaws episode now, and we had thought that he had sussed out that she was the criminal. But I guess that was more he just sort of thought about it, and this is where he really explicitly finds it out, that she was the marshal's prisoner, she was the convict, and he's going to use that against her. I mean, it's hard to watch, but I like that he grabs her because it reminds us that, we've had a decent run of Sawyer being, a charming Southern guy. Like, yeah, he's a criminal, but like, we like him. But this is like Sawyer being mean and mad and aggressive and violent in this episode. Reminds you, like, that is this guy. Like, that is who this guy is. Like, don't forget.
yeah. And I can definitely appreciate that as a, antagonistic force.
Mm-hmm.
And also a little bit like, I'm on Sawyer's side, not in, roughing, you shouldn't be violent.
Not assaulting somebody, yeah.
Yeah. But definitely in a, Kate is being mean. And so Sawyer is being mean back. And again, I'm not saying to manhandle anyone, but I am like, no, he's letting her know, like, this isn't okay. You're not allowed to do this.
Yeah, and that's when she says to Sawyer, I want your spot, I'll get your spot. Which is, they're just pushing each other's buttons. You can totally see Kate just like glaring at him, just being like, you're not my dad. Just being like, kind of like your dad, though. Yeah. Michael drinks some water and talks to his son, and he gets sick. Walt finds Son and Kate. And when he tells them Michael is sick, Son's eyes go wide. I didn't notice it the first time I watched the episode, but I did the second time. It's a very nice detail.
You watched the episode twice?
I did.
Oh, man. I actually, like, I made a conscious decision to be like, not going back.
I didn't want to. This was a tough one. What I've been doing the last few episodes is I'll just sit down like on a afternoon or an evening, and I'll watch the episode just to watch it. And then that way, when I'm making notes the second time, like, I don't need to pay attention to every single thing. This one was, it was a tough sit the second time. But yes, she does a it's subtle, but it's there where her eyes goes like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen.
That is cool though. There is something else I want to talk about with that scene, or the one just before it.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting when Walt asks Michael how they'll come back for everyone. Did you get the impression that Michael's thinking, no, we're not going to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally the vibe. It's that what he is doing is saying, like, that is not our fucking problem. Like, I am getting us off this island. We are going to find somebody to rescue us. The rest of them are on their own. We'll do the best that we can. But because the thing is, like, even like Michael tells Wally, he says, it might be hard to find this island once we leave, because what are they going to say to the people who rescue them? We came from that way. Like, they don't know. They don't know where they are. They have no idea. Yeah, I think Michael's being very realistic. I think he's trying to placate his son, because his son cares about all the other people, and he doesn't, he hopes that they're doing this to rescue everybody. But Michael is doing this to rescue his son.
Yeah, I guess I do. I respect it. I understand it. But I was like, just the way that he approached it, I was like, it felt a little bit like, well, no. Like, which is just, certainly where his character eventually goes, where it's like, you are all obstacles in my way.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I did like that little moment. Like, Michael is trying to say the nice thing to his son. Like, he wants his son to believe that. But it's clear that he's not thinking about coming back. He's thinking about what the heck they need to do to get out there. Okay, so back at the hatch, Locke tells Jack he's been digging up the hatch for about 3 weeks, and Jack gets pissed about this. And Locke tells him, he said, all due respect, I don't report to you. And then Jack says, all due respect, John, you lied. And they both have a point. Jack is not Locke's boss. But also, Locke was telling everybody they were looking for Boar, and that is absolutely not what he was doing. Also, this got Boone killed in a, ancillary way. Locke brings up the fact that Jack had a bunch of guns that he didn't tell anybody about. Jack says he used his best discretion. And I love the fact that Saeed does not want to open the hatch.
Yeah, I don't remember this. I love that he is the one who's like, no. And also the guy with, military experience, probably seen a bomb or two, and is like, yeah, I can think of a bunch of reasons why you would seal something without a handle. None of them would make me open that.
And he also, he's surprised because he's like, I brought you out here because I thought you would agree with me. And of course, Jack's like, no, I want to get in there.
It could be a shelter. There could be supplies. He's like, absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, there's no handle on this thing. It is not meant to be opened from the outside. It could be anything. It could be hazardous waste. And I remember, I think in early season 2, when he's going around inside the hatch, he mentions that the only thing that he's heard of that looks like this when they had all the concrete poured and stuff was Chernobyl. And, that absolutely aligns with, Saeed looking at this thing and just being like, I come from a country where we store chemical weapons. There's a lot of bad shit that could be in here.
Yeah, I absolutely adore that he's very against this idea. And, rightfully so.
Kate runs up, tells Jack that Michael is sick. We get another flashback. Kate is looking at a picture of Tom's 22-month-old son. He gets Diane an MRI so Kate can see her. And she persuades him to go dig up their time capsule in the middle of the night.
And this is the vague for no good reason. Everything about this just made me infuriated because it's like, I wrote it down where it's like, think it's still there? What? You know what? It's the middle of the night. And then they go out to a place with shovels and you're like, oh, is it a body? What is going to be? Oh, it's a time capsule.
What if they did just dig up a body?
Yeah, well, and even that was so wrong. Kate paces out 6 steps and it's like, okay, so you were this height when you guys buried it. I just stuff like that is such you didn't, all this is you want to be like, oh, this guy seems like a family man, but he's not afraid of Kate. Maybe they did something bad. And it's like, no, they buried a thing.
Here's why I hate this, is that maybe this is me being mean. I know it's a TV show. I know we have to fill the 44 minutes with drama and stuff, but let's break this down, okay? Tom is a respected doctor and a family man. He is really sticking his neck out to not only get Kate's mother moved to an MRI so she can see her, but also presumably letting her stay at his house while she's, on the run. He tells her that they have a few hours before the MRI happens. So Kate says, hey, why don't you come with me into the darkness and why don't we just run an errand and dig something up with shovels so that we can get nostalgic about old times. It's like he is already doing way more for you than you deserve.
Yeah.
And you want him to go and do a project with you. I'm trying, I get that it's romantic and they have this connection and it's a cute thing, but it's just in the context of the larger episode, I'm just like, man, fuck you. No. He's a doctor. Let him get some sleep.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm just a curmudgeon about this, but
no, I mean, we'll get to it when they do the next flashback, but this guy should not be this invested.
Well, Kate, he likes Kate. No, he shouldn't be this invested, but he is.
Yeah. But that's the whole point. I guess things didn't work out the way we thought they would. Yeah, you're right. I have a great career, a family.
Right?
I think this worked out pretty okay. Oh God. Anyway, we move forward.
Jack concludes that Michael was poisoned. He tells Michael, who immediately thinks it was Sawyer. While Jack is talking to Locke, Hurley lets slip that maybe Kate was the one who poisoned Michael because she's a fugitive. And this is news to Locke. And this is doubly funny because Jack was just giving Locke shit about keeping secrets, and this is Locke finding out that Jack has been keeping a major secret about Kate. And then Hurley is just like, I don't know who knows what. Like, Steve didn't know about the polar bear. Like, I'm just like, come on, don't get mad at me for this. But it is funny. Locke does give Jack this smile where it's just sort of like, oh, well, I guess it's not so bad that I was keeping a secret about the hatch. And he asked Jack, like, what did she do? And he's like, well, why don't you ask her, John? Like,
I do love that.
Like, you don't know, do you?
I do love these moments because this happened a few times this season where they have to canvass people. And yeah, Locke's casual interrogation of Hurley. Yeah, I like how it plays out. I think it's a and where were you in all this? Where and it's well done.
Yeah. And now we come to the only scene that I really like in this episode is Charlie playing guitar to Turniphead while Claire cuts his hair. It is so cute, and it's such a nice little moment. And yeah, I don't have anything else to say about it. I just like it.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too because we were talking about this. I think it was the last episode, but it was like, man, Saeed's hair's getting long. Shannon's hair's getting long. Son's hair's getting long.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, like this episode, I was like, wow, Charlie's hair's getting really long. And they're like, yeah, let's cut that.
And yeah. Jack's getting beardy too.
Oh yeah, he had a lot more.
We saw him shaving in a few episodes ago, but he's growing. He's got stubble coming in now.
But yeah, great little moment. They never really solidify these two as a couple. Like I think it's in Greatest Hits. They share a kiss, and it's like, oh, they haven't kissed before this.
Yeah, you're right.
But like that is what I like. Is that it's like a nice little this kind of a moment. It makes them at the very least feel close.
Definitely,
I like it.
Oh, and especially because she still hasn't gotten her memory back yet, but they have become close enough again for them to share this moment, because it's an intimate thing, cutting somebody's hair. And he invites her and Turniphead to come stay with him in Los Angeles, and it actually does seem like he's not being like
creepy about it.
No, yeah, he's just being like, I'm a rock star, I have a place, come stay,
and very much tells them like, and when you figure out what you want to do, obviously like go off and do it, but like until then, it does, yeah. They really, it's nice.
You know what though? It's much sadder because Charlie he really thinks that they're about to get rescued.
Yeah.
Like, remember like a few episodes ago when he was telling Claire, yeah, when we're rescued. And now he's just like, he's telling Kate, he's like, oh my God, my albums are going to be selling like hotcakes. And he's writing new tracks about, living on the island. And he's so psyched.
Yeah. And now we get the scene that I texted you.
Oh, yes. Okay. In the caves, Jack asks Kate if she poisoned Michael, and she asks if he thinks she's capable of that.
I literally had to pause it and scream, you just poisoned Jack in the last episode. What?
Yeah. It's like and the fact that he doesn't bring that up is almost silly. It's like he should just been looking at her, because doesn't he say like, I don't know, Kate? And it's just like yes, you do know. She absolutely could do that.
Yeah, and it's mind-boggling. Yeah. I think this is easily one of my least. No, okay. There are two character traits that infuriate me to no end. One is stubbornness. Whenever there's a character that just won't do something, and it's like, just do the thing. Like, stop it. Do the thing. And I know that it is always done for the sake of plot, of like, how can we extend this or whatever. But now I'm realizing that my new one comes from this, which is like, when people are indignant for when it's like, no, you have no right to be like, yeah. Locke was doing this in the previous episode of like, doesn't this earn me some trust? It's like, no, why not? Because you were caught. This isn't altruistic. You were caught. And yeah, Kate, you think I'm capable of something like that? Yes, because you are. You did it. Like, I don't understand. And this again, like, to me, I'm sure part of it is writers who, probably don't communicate, probably aren't there. They're certainly not there on set, like watching it be filmed. Their part's done. I can forgive writing where there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Maybe they weren't privy to that anecdotal information, in the writing process. I think that's fine. But for actors not to take the liberty to be like, didn't she poison him in the last episode? Didn't we film that scene? Like, I don't understand that. Because then, like, you have to be playing this as though you're being emotionally manipulative, as though you're like, well, I'm gonna try and make Jack feel bad for thinking this.
Well, what I also hate about it is that it's such a placeholder dialogue. Like when some character says, "Do you really think I'm capable of something like that?" It's almost like saying nothing. You're basically giving the actor a chance to give the other actor a look because it doesn't mean anything. Like it's just do you really think I'm capable of something like that? Clearly he does. That is why he's saying it. And so it's just a way to just pad out this scene where the two of you are glaring at each other and you leave it basically at the same state that you entered it in. Like it's padding. It's filler and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Oh, and next flashback, Kate and Tom dig up the time capsule. They listen to the tape. It's sad. Kate always wants to run away because her home life is bad. They kiss. That's the flashback.
So this one, though, arc number. They were recording this August 15th, 1989. Which, again, though, they recorded on 8/15.
Yeah.
It was in a security box, 8/15. On a plane, 8/15. It's like, guys, stop. This is so ridiculous. Because frankly, if that was me, and apparently this plane means as much to me as she seems to pretend that it does. Yeah, getting on a plane that says 8/15, I'm like, huh, that's weird. Like, she's oblivious, apparently attentive to details, except things like that. It's stuff like that. It's like, I don't know why you're doing this.
Yeah.
So I will say this is a scene that I recall vividly because when I last watched this episode, I was high, and listening to the children on the tape recorder made me cry. I do distinctly remember I was like, I'm trying to think how old I was. I remember like listening to the kids on the thing as the camera like is panning around the car and they're just listening to it. And just being like, oh my God, life just got in the way. And like, I felt awful about it. In retrospect, though, watching this again, I'm like, it's barely a tape.
It's I kept waiting for like there to be more, and it's like that's it. You wasted an entire cassette tape for maybe 60 seconds.
There's nothing there, and all it does is again just plant these vague nothing seeds of, well, we're gonna be married, and it's like, we could have gotten that from how they responded to each other. Like, he calls her Katie. That was enough information for me to be like, oh, he knows her real name and he's familiar with her. I assume they knew each other from childhood. We don't need this, oh, we plan on getting married. It's like, who cares? No, this doesn't mean anything because we don't even know when Kate left. If Kate left like last year, oh, maybe they were engaged. Maybe that would be interesting. But because we know that she basically leaves when she's like 16 or whatever, it's like, okay, so it's been like 15 years. Get over it, guy. Like, I just like, they make him a cheater then, which like, I get that that's Kate's fault, but I'm also just like, I don't get it. Like, this to me doesn't stir up. This doesn't make me go, aw. It just makes me go like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's supposed to show as the road not taken, that Kate in another life, brother, could have, grown up with this guy and not done whatever terrible things she did that the writers definitely don't know what it was. But it's also like, I agree with you. I'm watching this now as a 36-year-old man and just being like, just being a homewrecker at this point. You're not making.
Yeah. And like, that's the thing, like, because once again, like I go back to he at least has enough integrity to be like, I'm going to stop this here because we should go take you to your mom, which is having enough foresight to be like, I'm not letting this go further. But because of how disappointed Kate looks, it's like, no, she was planning on full home wrecking. Like this is it's like, why would you do this? Doesn't make me like either character. Like it's just like
It's like, yeah, I get it that she's the one that got away for him, but it's a lot of shit that it's not just like, like your old flame comes back into town and you reconnect and you remember how good they made you feel. It's like Kate is a wanted criminal. She has already convinced him to commit one crime by, lying about why this patient needs an MRI. And she's not good for him. And she knows that. So back on the island, Walt finds Locke applying medicine to his leg wound, which is a nice bit of continuity. We haven't really discussed the fact that Locke's was very severely wounded. Like that debris went deep into his leg since that episode. Walt feels the need to tell Locke that he didn't poison his father. And Locke he's very understanding. He's like, well, I didn't assume just because you burned the raft that you poisoned your dad.
But he totally did. I mean,
and then when Locke touches his hand, Walt tells him not to open, quote unquote, it, which obviously means the hatch. And
does it though?
Guess we don't really know.
Could be don't open the wound. It'll get infected. No,
just good advice. Which, we get a very explicit demonstration of Walt's powers. And cool.
That goes nowhere. I will say, I know that you said you're not like a diehard Walt fan. This is something that I'm curious to see as we get into some of the later seasons. Now, for instance, knowing that, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his real name, but since Mr. Echo, we know, didn't want to be in Hawaii, was like, I'm done. It also kind of feels like that a little bit for Walt, where it's like, I remember the first couple episodes of this season, I thought he seemed like a strong kid actor. And between this episode, and I think it was the last one where he's just like, what if the raft explodes? What if there's a shark? What if, like, it honestly feels like he's just like, how fast can I say these lines to get out of this? Like, and I know that there's different laws for kids. Like you can only work between certain hours for like labor laws and stuff like that. So maybe it's a director and like maybe this is like a scene where they're like, oh shoot, how long do we have Walt for? And for all I know, maybe Walt was one of the ones who wasn't moved to Hawaii. Maybe he was like going to school, so they were like flying him back and forth. I don't know the situation. All I will say is that as far as performances go, Walt has had a pretty steep decline.
You're right. I am not a diehard Walt fan because I don't think that character works. And I'm not, I believe the actor's name is Malcolm David Kelly. It is not his fault. He is a kid. I'm not saying that this child is a bad person for being a bad actor, but I agree with you. And for me, it's never been a decline. I think Walt is always at the same level of annoying. And whenever he is in a scene, I just want it to be over. And again, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, like, I don't buy it. I don't buy him as the character. I think he's doing the best that he can, and it's not his fault. But yeah, I generally do not enjoy his scenes. I don't want to be mean. I just don't.
No, I genuinely think that he did a good job in the first couple episodes. Like I mean, genuinely
he's a kid.
like.
He does, he's a kid. He plays a kid fine.
I don't, but like I like when he presses his dad on something. He's like, why? Like it feels so genuine. And when like I remember distinctly when he is introduced to Sun as his new babysitter, instead of being like, she can't even talk to me. Instead, he just kind of like, so what do you do? Like I thought that he captured it well, but between this episode where it's like, I didn't do it. And it's like, okay, well, and then he's like, don't get on it. Don't get it. Don't open it. Don't open it. It's like, can you be, it feels wrong. It seems like he's playing it as though he's possessed And I feel like even with what we know of Walt's powers, it's like, that's not how you do that.
I
And
think 50% of Walt's acting is him squinting at the sun. I feel like every scene starts with him just squinting and asking a question.
yeah,
But yeah, he's a kid. I don't, they can't all be Haley Joel Osments.
all right. We can move
Um,
on to one of my favorite Sawyer lines.
Michael tells Sawyer that he's off the raft, and Sawyer grabs Kate and prepares to tell everyone that she's a criminal.
I just like when he's like, I did what now? Again, I'm on Sawyer's side here. I don't think you should be manhandling anyone, but I think this is fine.
We come to our final flashback. Kate visits her mom, who completely freaks out. She apologized to her for what she put her through. Kate knocks out security with his giant walkie-talkie. Tom refuses to get out of the car. Kate drives into the state trooper, who shoots and kills Tom. Kate runs away, and kudos to either Kate or her stunt double who runs away down that culvert in those heels. Very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel bad. Like, this is the one time in the episode where I felt something, where I felt really bad that Tom died.
I mean, I do and I don't. This was a little bit like in that home wrecking spirit. Like, this used to be a thing for me, is like, whenever watching a dramatic movie, like, I distinctly remember feeling this way when watching Cold Mountain, when you have two people who are trying desperately to reconnect. I'm like, well, I know this will have a happy ending if they don't meet up until the very end of the movie, because obviously they're not going to just tow you along. But if they meet at like the beginning of the end, then I think there's going to be a problem. And like, this is like, again, just early kid trying to figure things out. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's not going to be a problem as long as they don't sleep together, because the way these Hollywood movies work is then she'll be pregnant and she'll be like, oh, but at least I have a part of him with me.
Spoilers for Cold Mountain, by the way.
For anyone who's
for this 12-year-old movie.
Oh, you're being conservative. I think it's 22 years old.
No, all right, let's look this up. Because you're absolutely right. All the things you were saying are right. Oh my God, this movie came. Yeah, you're correct. This movie came out in 2003.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Jesus.
Okay, so but this was like early on. That was a formative movie in that I was like, oh shoot, they slept together. Now it's ruined. He's gonna die. And I feel that way too. Watch any TV show watch at least 3 TV shows and this happens, where it's like someone has a critical piece of information and maybe they're not the main character. As soon as that critical piece of information is given away, that character dies. Because what else are you going to do with them? And like, for me, this was the whole like, oh, let's have Tom and Kate kiss because this will seal what their relationship was and what he wished it could be. And this gives us liberty to then kill him because we satisfied that query. Because I feel this scene, it would have been more impactful to me if Tom gets out of the car. Like, there's so much in this scene that just doesn't make sense. Because again, this is where
what is Tom's? Is Tom trying to get her to stay? Like, trying to get her to be like, just turn yourself in? Or is he saying, I want to go with you? Like, I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like he's like, I'm not going to leave until you get out of the car. But it's like, but she's going. So it almost like the 2 different writers wrote, hey, you handle the scenes where she meets her mom. I'm going to write the scenes with Tom. And then we'll kind of figure out how they fit together. Because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense that you have this woman who is dying be this terrified. Like, at that point, I got to imagine, I don't know, but I got to imagine if I'm at end stage cancer, I'm not going to be afraid of someone that blew up the person I was dating.
That's a great point.
It doesn't make sense how the mom's reaction to Kate is so different from Tom's, who's like, oh, hey, Katie, what are you doing in my car?
Yeah.
And it feels like they did this so that they could bake in a way out, which we'll get to in this really shitty island speech that Kate gives. But I think that Kate's a piece of shit. And this scene does nothing but make me, because like even then it's like, I get what they were trying to do is, oh, her best friend is dead and she's responsible, but the cops are coming and she's got to run. And it's like, her priorities are, well, see ya. You know, like, not like, and as a great juxtaposition to this, Nadia is literally about to be captured. Fate's worse than death, and then death.
Yeah.
And she takes the time to say to Saeed, like, here's my letter. Come find me. And like, you know, she throws caution to the wind there. Kate does no such thing. And it's not even like she gives any sort of second thought to, oh God, I should like write something for his son or leave a message for Rachel or whatever. Doesn't even grab the plane, you know, just bails. And I'm just like, this is so fucked. This is just like, you're a shitty person. This isn't just, oh, I stumbled into this bad circumstance. It's like, no, you're a shitty person. Like, I don't understand how you're supposed to feel any sort of empathy for her after this point. Like, I don't care about Kate at this point. And I'm actually bummed that she's not one of the people that dies, you know, like she doesn't deserve this.
But also like it would at least give us something to do if like we had like another Marshall flashback where it's her facing off against the Marshal. Like, and we have like, as opposed to this island episode where nothing much happens, we have this, you know, you have like a little bit of like an action movie, like in the middle of it where she's, you know, facing off against this guy and he's hot on her tail and, you know, they've got some shootouts or something. I don't know. I'm usually the last person to say we need some more action beats in here, but this is so flat and leaves us, like you say, just not sympathizing with Kate. Like I don't see how this is any different from what we've seen before. It's always she feels bad about getting somebody else involved, but she keeps doing it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, gosh, she even just escalates that hospital sequence of like, smack. And it's like, just play it off. Like, you bring up a great point with like, if we needed more action beats or something. Cause like, again, and this is another thing that I remember in this era of television and whatnot, something that I think I mentioned in the last episode, how it often felt like when you kill off a character or, you know, you write a character and they're an orphan. It's just like, I remember distinctly this when I was like preteen. For some reason, I remember like every kid movie was about an orphan. Like Free Willy, I think, is about an orphan. And I want to say there's like a bunch of others, but that's the one that comes to mind. And I remember at the time being like, oh man, how cool. They're a kid making it on their own, living their own life. And realizing as far as the story structure goes, that it's actually like such the easy way out is just having a character that's an orphan, because you're like, well, I'm not going to bother with the whole parents thing. It's just a way to write someone where it's like, do I want to take the time to really develop this? No, fuck it. There's an orphan. Blank slate. And it's so much more compelling to have a rich history of connections, be it family or friends or what have you, because it enriches characters. You see how they, again, I'm editing the Homecoming episode right now. So it's like, I know we mentioned this on there. You never get to see Charlie's relationships really explore. You never really see his relationship with his dad, who seems to be like an important figure in Greatest Hits for a moment, or his mom, or a priest with the church, or the other bandmates, or his manager. You know, like there's a lot of other places you could have taken this. And frankly, actually, the manager probably would have been a great one, because if I trust half of what I've read about Kurt Cobain, it sounds like the music industry managers were like, hey, do more drugs. Which, like, I digress. My point is, it is so cheap and easy to wrap up a character story in a bow by killing them. And what I mean by this is Tom dying, it just, again, it's what makes this so much of a nothing episode. If Tom was alive, I think this would actually give us like, oh, that's why Kate is so eager to get off the island. Like, even beyond this whole, well, I don't want to be found because then I'm going to be arrested. But like, if there was someone where it's like, hey, we shared a kiss, I want to go back to him, maybe that would make sense. Or like, yeah, just give some sort of reason for her to want to go back. But you've got a mom who, at least they painted them into a corner of, she's dead now. We have no reason to believe she's alive now. And Tom, who is now dead, and Kate shows no remorse. And as far as I know, never really brought up again that, hey, my best friend, who I kind of killed, has a 22-year-old. I'll take care of Sawyer's baby. But that one that I was directly responsible for, tough. The last thing I'll mention about this is the other scene that I remember distinctly turning off Lost when I was high. And I will say that even soberly, the makeup department and the actress who is playing Kate's mom, this scared the shit out of me when I was high.
Yeah, she looks like she's dying.
She looks bad.
She does.
And, I appreciate that level of detail and commitment. But yeah, even soberly, I'm like, this is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the way that she plays it, where like, she reacts to this in the way that like in A Clockwork Orange, when they like pry the guy's eyes open and he's like, please stop, please. And it's like, is that a special effect? No, you've attached this to his face. I don't like this at all.
Yeah, with the Jack makeup in the previous episode where he, looks totally strung out and losing blood and everything, like makeup department on this show is killing it. Like, yeah. And they're also like when they made Christian look like really drunk and on a bender, like, yeah, really good. And especially like now, like on, our current TVs, it holds up. Like I really, really give props to that department. It looks real. Like it looks real. It looks painful. It looks bad.
Yeah.
In a good way. All right. Well, back on the island, Kate admits to the group that she was with the marshal, but that she didn't poison Michael, and everybody just leaves her. They all seem pissed off, which I don't know. I don't know if this seems right. I guess I mean, they all seem really judgmental when it's like, well, I don't know. You've known Kate for like 30 plus days. Like, what kind of person she is. This doesn't. I mean, if you think that she's poisoned Michael, I get why they're mad, but it's also, you have no proof of this. It's like, remember when you all thought Jin torched the boat? You were all wrong about that too.
Yeah.
We have the only appearance of Shannon in this episode where she just glares at Kate and then walks off.
Well, yeah, it's we already did this with Locke, where he comes forward, everyone stares at him, and he's like, "Oh no, I've lost faith." And it's because it makes sense, because this is something that people knew Boone, they were directly attached to Boone. Locke did something bad. Kate reveal of she was the convict. I honestly believe there would be people on the island just like, "Oh, did we? I thought we resolved it. I thought Sawyer was the con. Did we not?" Like, I think if anything, people would be more confused. And I think others would be like, well, there's also polar bears and stuff.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Ethan. And like, I just like, it doesn't make sense for this, like, I think it's intended to be this public humiliation, and I don't see it that way.
Well, it's also, okay, so this goes back to what we always talk about, which is that Kate's being portrayed the wrong way. Like, if you had the character of Kate be a super manipulative person who's always, you're not quite sure what her loyalties are, you're not quite sure whose side she's on. If you then expose her as being the criminal, then it throws everything that she's done into disarray, because she has done her best to convince everyone that she is a nice person, that she can be trusted, that you don't need to worry about it. But we have only seen Kate be helpful and nice and community oriented while she's on the island. So I feel like a realistic response to everybody doing this is, like you said, confusion. Just being like, oh, well, if she's a criminal, that's not the person that I know. But that's not how we do. That's not how we have Kate. Like, she's just, this should be a bigger reveal and it should have more of an impact. And instead, everyone gets kind of surly and leaves her alone.
Yeah. To go back to the House of the Rising Sun episode, at the very least, you get the big reveal that Sun speaks English. This is what I mean. This episode should have been building to, here's what Kate did. Because this is your moment on the island to be like, look, I've been wrongly accused of killing somebody. Because by not saying what it is that you were on the plane for, just as like, if you didn't, you just say what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is this a big secret then if we all know now? Like, we're going to find out. So if she like just came out, and if we go with the canonical what she did, she's like, look, I've been accused of killing my father. And I think, people be like, oh. She's like, he was beating my mom and maybe molesting me. Okay. And then you have Hurley come up and he's like, cool, dude, so you're kind of like Vader. Or Luke Skywalker, what, like, I just like.
Nobody molested Luke Skywalker.
But the bottom line is to stand there and put on the spot and grandstand and be like, it doesn't matter what I did or what I supposedly did. And it's like, you're not speaking to a jury of your peers. Like, all this does is tell me that you're guilty of whatever it is. Like, her speech is so bad. Anyway, that's all.
I find it interesting that Kate uses the passport of Joanna, who we've gotten a lot of mileage out of Joanna in the last 2 episodes. But it's also it's the only, I guess it's the only female survivor that we know of who was named who died. So in a way, you kind of have to, like, you have to say, that Boone tried to save Joanna, and you have to say that Joanna's passport, because otherwise it's just like random Lisa lady, which, you know what, I don't need to.
Though, even that, like, how much better would it have been if she didn't have Joanna's passport? If she had Nikki's passport, someone on the island was like, oh, that turd monkey, she stole my passport. Like,
that would be
she
better,
was gonna take my, something that, like, this, it's like, again, going into the, like, lean into the manipulative, because she's poisoning people. Like, just go all the way.
Yeah. Well, next scene, Jack tells Sun that he knows that she poisoned the water. She was attempting to do it to Jin because she doesn't want him to die in the ocean. And Jack once again keeps a secret. He tells her to tell Jin goodbye because he's going. Very nice little moment with Jack there.
I had the opposite reaction.
Oh, yeah.
I said this is our first introduction to bad bedside manner Jack. Of Sun being like, I didn't want him to get, hurt. I just didn't want him to go. Your husband's leaving. You should say goodbye. It's like, stop it.
Stop it. That night, Sawyer tells Kate he's back on the raft and that they leave tomorrow. He doesn't apologize, but he does kind of explain his actions. He clearly feels bad about what he did, but he says, he's not going to say sorry. And, that's all I've written. Yeah, that's it.
I actually, this was another one that this was one moment on the show where I was like, I like this. Because I like that Sawyer doesn't apologize. That's part of his character. Mm-hmm. But B, partly why I think he doesn't apologize is because he effectively tells Kate in so many words, my opinion of you hasn't changed. Everyone else on this island may treat you differently. I'm not.
That's a good point. But then he also says that there's nothing on this island worth staying for.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I also viewed that as rather romantic, because when she's like, I'm taking your spot on the raft, it's like, it's you or me. And it's not even a world where it's like, hey, let's go together. Or, why don't we stay together? Be outlaws together. Mm. It feels like that kind of a invitation of, if you wanted me to stay, or if you felt that this connection was something, I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I actually, the way that he looks at her and the way that she looks at him, it does seem like he's waiting or wanting her to contradict him. And she doesn't, and so he goes. Not like that she's just by herself just poking a fire. She's got no food. She's got nothing. There's nobody with her. She's just
Shorty ate her marshmallow.
At the raft, Walt confesses to his father that he burned the first raft, and Michael very sweetly says, "Okay, well, we don't have to go," which I, as a father, I'd be like, "We're fucking going." And then Walt says, "No, they have to go now." And he is alluding to the hatch. He's like, "No, there's some bad shit that's about to happen."
And this was a big deal that Michael's like, all right, we don't have to go.
He did seem sincere. It's weird how after so many episodes of him being like, "I'm building this raft, I'm going to get off this island," that he, it's a good father moment where he does seem to legitimately be saying, if you really don't want to go, we don't have to go.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as a father myself, if I went to all of this trouble of making it, I would force my children on the raft and they would hate me for it.
I would not. But I also wouldn't be building the raft in the first place. I'd be like,
get on the raft.
We're going to go make a home here. But yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about tier lists that may be made as we wrap out this season. But yeah, Michael, as far as a character arc, those first like 13, 14 episodes, it's like this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since his episode, I want to say he's not gone backwards. It seems as though there hasn't been another incident of him being a shitty dad. It seems like he's, just been good.
Yeah, since Special, they seem to have a much tighter handle on who Michael is, or at least that they have explained why he is a little shaky at being a dad, but we have no question that he wants to be a dad and he wants to be a good dad. In the final scene, we learn that sun poisoning the water was Kate's idea. So she is capable of that, as if we needed more proof. And Kate says Jack's good at keeping secrets. And Sun has a good line here where she says that when she was a little girl, she thought that marrying the man she loved, she thought she'd be happy. They would make her happy forever. And Kate says, yeah. And that is the end of the episode. That is Born to Run, which I maintain is the worst episode of season 1.
It's a solid content. Yeah, I mean that again, the one saving grace of the House of the Rising Sun is that you get a reveal that Sun speaks English.
And there's still some good like island stuff in that episode, if I remember correctly.
But if that's the main thing, and you contrast that with Born to Run, I am trying to think, like, do you get anything anywhere close to that?
You get a nice scene of Charlie playing guitar while Claire cuts his hair. That's what you get. Everything else is superfluous.
Yeah. And
I hate it. I hate to be, we both like this show, but oh man, it is technically a new low. This is a new low for the show. It's just and again, I keep banging this drum here. I know that they can't all be winners. Damon Lindelof has said he knows they can't all be winners. When you've got 25 hours of a TV show, it's tough. I know it's tough. But this episode just doesn't pull it off.
Yeah. In general, though, Kate is definitely, at this point, I know I said this when we went into this review, but like just of the whole series, I at this point, I feel very secure in her just being just the biggest disappointment of the show.
I agree. It seems like she should be one of the most interesting people here, but it just consistently, the writers show that they don't know what to do with her. It's like if her whole adult life has been as a fugitive on the run, you can do anything. Like, she's always in a different state. She's always getting into more trouble. And I feel like we're just retelling the same story again and again and again. And it becomes a little ridiculous when every flashback you do with Kate is not the thing she did, but just seems to be getting her into more trouble. Like, it skirts that line from being tragic to being silly, where it's like, oh, let's see how Kate's gonna ruin somebody's life today.
She's gonna marry Nathan Fillion and then leave him, but not at the altar. Yeah, good Lord.